Hey guys, it's me Alina. Today I'm going to talk about a very interesting and very deep topic that I have never covered before, and it is the controllability of sleep. You probably heard me saying this for many times that sleep is beyond our control. We cannot produce sleep. There is nothing outside of us that can produce sleep. So sleep is something that happens. Sleep is passive. And many people take it as, they usually kind of understand this concept from the beginning, and since then they just work on letting go the desire to control sleep, which is in long term helps them to let go of the whole struggle with insomnia. But some people might find a certain friction with this concept. To them, it might not seem logical or believable that we actually don't have any control of sleep. And in their minds, it's usually this kind of like the idea that, well, before it seemed like I had this control, so why I cannot now have that control back? And naturally, they feel very anxious about this idea, because then if you hear that, okay, you cannot, you want to get your sleep back but you cannot really control it, then many people feel anxious about it. So what do you mean that I cannot control it? That means that there is no chance of me getting better, and that's not the case. And if you watch this video until the end, I'm going to kind of like give you this hope or reassurance that actually it is possible to get your sleep back, even though we don't have control over it, which basically means that we can return to our pre-insomnia life without actually getting control over sleep, because it's not really possible. But in this video, like the major part of this video is going to be where I just put out my arguments why I think, I believe, and many people, many coaches in the sleep world also consider that sleep is beyond our control. And first, in order to really dive deeper, we need to understand or have a common understanding of the terminology here. What does it mean to control something? Because I googled control, like the meaning of control, and I found that there are different definitions of it, and most importantly, I'm not 100% agreeing with them. So that means that let's say maybe the definition of control that you have might be different from my definition of control. So Google says that control is basically an ability to influence on the course of events or to have power over something. Well, that seems logical, but I don't find it 100% accurate, because when we think about control in terms of sleep, what we mean by that, it's not only to have an impact or influence on the turn of events, but we want to have those events to come to a certain outcome, to particular outcome. Because in reality, if I do something, I make a decision or something, it's going to have an influence, but not always that influence or the outcome that comes from that decision is something that I always predict or I can always control. So to me, the true definition of control that I put into when I talk about sleep is that if I do X, then I get Y, and that kind of process can be recreated many times, and every time I do a certain action, that leads to certain outcome. And if I do it again and again, it will lead to the same outcome. And my favorite example here is the remote control from TV. So let's say we have a button which is turns on and off our TV, and if we just talk about the influence, okay, if I press this button, do I have an influence on my TV? Yes. We are sure about that, because when I press this, the TV turns on, and if I press it again, it turns off. If I do it several times, will it produce the same outcome? Absolutely, yes, because if the TV is off and I press the button, then it gets turned on, and no matter how many times I do that, it will do the same outcome that I expect. Of course, if let's say if I don't have batteries dead in my remote control, but I can recreate the same outcome. If someone else uses a remote control and they do this, they press the button, does it always lead to the same outcome? Yes. So as you can see, in this case, we are like 100% confident that yes, we do have control over our TV with the remote control. But then let's do the same process with sleep. Let's say that last night you think about something nice. Maybe you did a meditation, you were, you tried to think positive, and then you had a really nice sleep. And naturally what people think like that, yes, when I think good, about something good, then it produces this outcome, then I sleep. So they get this kind of sense of control here. Now let's test it, if that's, if we actually have control there. So again, did this activity, let's say like us thinking pleasant things yesterday, influenced the outcome of sleep? Well, maybe, because we were in a more positive state, we were less anxious, we were relaxed, we were not trying to sleep, we were just we were thinking nice things, and that led to a certain to outcome, which was basically having a really nice night of sleep. Now, can we recreate this? So does that mean that every time we think nice things before going to bed or in the bed, does it always produce the same outcome? And here our confidence is not that strong compared to the last night experience. So last night experience, perhaps, yes, the influence over that event, that maybe thinking nice thoughts could have, but is the outcome is always something that can be reproduced by doing the same thing over and over again. And here is the tricky part, because if you are being honest with yourself and you think about your experience currently during your insomnia recovery journey, have you tried, have you did the same thing and it led you to the different outcome? And most probably, the answer will be yes. So here we are starting being not sure about whether we can actually control things here. And the third control question is basically, if anyone will use this trick of positive thinking or having nice thoughts before bedtime, do they have the same result as you had, let's say, last night? And the answer will be again no, because this is something that what I usually hear, let's say people write that they try meditation, they try the positive thinking, mantras, affirmations, and it doesn't work. So that kind of is a proof that we are not really, by doing this thing, we are not always getting the outcome. So that means the definition, the one which I gave you, that if I do this, I get this always, repeatedly, it's not applied here in terms of sleep. Now, of course, you might think that, okay, but since I had influence, like last night when I was thinking nice things about, about myself, about, sleep, and it led to a peaceful sleep, so I have influence, and it not always leads to the same outcome, then maybe I have control, but it's not like 100% control. Maybe it's like 70% of control, which is like an enticing idea. But at the same time, my opinion here is that control is something like 100% thing. If there is something that is like something does not produce the same outcome, then it is more like a probability game. And here I want to lead you to this kind of like secret of life or whatever, that I kind of like discovered for myself, that changed the way how I view things from that moment, is that in our life, in reality, we have a very small fraction of control. We literally, majority of things that we have in our life, we don't control. We don't have this kind of like powers to produce stable result from time to time. Which makes the second part of the argument is that all our actions and inactions have consequences. That means that by doing something, it is going to impact things. It's going to have some consequences, but we are not in control of those particular consequences. We cannot ensure that the consequence that we'll have from a certain action will be the one that we always want. So that means that yes, majority of things in our life we don't control, so the rest is just a probability game. We don't control, let's say, a lot of functions in our body. We cannot consciously control our digestion. We cannot control breathing in a way that we cannot, hold our breath for an hour. We simply, there are some things that we don't have control, and luckily, I would say. So that leads us to this kind of the next part of this discussion is that then if everything is probability game, then can I use that probability game to improve my sleep? Because certain things, as we discussed, yes, like if I think nice thoughts and it had impact at certain moment on my sleep, that I slept more, then maybe I will just do more of that, and some nights I will sleep more, and some nights majority of nights I will sleep good, and there will be small fraction of nights that when I will not sleep good. So, and here is the tricky part with sleep itself, because sleep is primarily the absence of awareness. When we are asleep, we are not aware that we are sleeping. And when we try to control something, that means that we bring awareness into this thing. So by trying to control sleep, we kind of change the outcome. So that means when you want to play the probability game with your sleep and think that, okay, I'm more probable to fall asleep if I do, let's say, meditation, and you invest your attention into this activity, what you do with this attention is that you make the outcome uncontrollable. So it definitely, this activity that you do is going to impact sleep, but you don't know which way. You don't know whether it will impact the way how you expect it to be, meaning that it will put you, at ease, at rest, and then you will just fall asleep, or it will create this expectation, this hypervigilance, where it will just keep you away from sleeping. So that means it doesn't matter what you will choose. The moment when you put your intention to kind of play this probability game with your sleep, the outcome is unknown. So that means that sleep becomes this kind of moving target that we cannot kind of like capture as long as we are trying to capture it. So to me, that what explains the idea that we cannot control sleep. There is nothing that we can intentionally do that it will produce stably the same outcome. Because the moment when we proclaim that I have control now over my sleep, that moment you change the outcome. And this outcome, you don't know what it will be. So you kind of like enter this the unknown, because it can work both ways. It can work as let's say what's the name of it? This kind of like self-fulfilled prophecy, where you just say, you know what, I'm doing this and it's going to help me, and then maybe it will get you to believing that yes, this is something that has power over me, and naturally you stop trying to do anything else, and that can produce this outcome. Or it can go the opposite way, where the brain will be more hyper vigilant and will basically prevent sleep from happening. So that's what I mean by when I say that we cannot really control sleep. And the truth is, and I just don't want to kind of like to have it sound as that there's nothing that we can do, and there's no hope for us to get better. It definitely is, and there's a lot of examples of when people actually could break this vicious cycle without actually getting control over sleep. And one important thing that can probably bring some relief, I believe, is that understanding that actually no one has control over sleep. Even the best sleepers in the world, they don't control their sleep. So that means that if you think about someone whom you know, whom you think that is like they are the best sleeper in the world, and they can fall asleep in under 5 minutes, and just it seems like they have control over sleep. They don't have control, because even if you have this kind of like mind experiment. Imagine that you give those people, or you can do the actual experiment, I don't know, you tell them, okay, I want you to show me how you fall asleep in, let's say, in 5 minutes, and I'm going to give you, let's say, $1,000 if you do. So I'm increasing stakes here. So that means that if you do it right, if you create a certain outcome, that means that if you control the sleep, I'm going to reward you with this. And then you can tell, like, well, I'm going to also to check on you in 5 minutes to see whether you are actually sleeping. And that the greatest sleeper on the planet will fail this task, because now it's about the intention, it's about the attempt to control sleep, because the stakes are high now, because they would probably want to win the bet, and paradoxically they will not sleep. And this actually proves that no one, even the best sleepers in the world, they don't control their sleep, yet it doesn't prevent them from having that sleep. And now, in compared to our situation where we are frightened, we are scared of the idea of losing sleep, it's exactly the same situation as is with this kind of like experimental great sleeper, where they have a kind of reward that increases stakes. In our situation, there is no reward. There is actually the more like we believe that if we don't sleep, there is going to be some catastrophe will happen. So we create even more pressure on ourselves to sleep. And the idea here is to actually to show the body, or to show our brain that we actually can rely on our body, on our body's natural ability to sleep. And the way how we can do that is by being like simply understanding where the whole idea of this hyper arousal of the desire to control things, where it comes from. And it comes from this idea that wakefulness is not good, that being awake is undesirable. And the tricky thing is, like, as long as we think that being awake at night is not good for us, we should not be awake at night. This is where we will have this desire to control sleep. Sleep is something that always will happen to us, because there are certain things in our body that we cannot control. We cannot control the process of falling asleep, but we also cannot control we cannot have the moment when we just like stay awake forever. That's not even possible. The body will never let us stay awake forever. So there are processes that are beyond our control, and eventually sleep drive always wins. It will always win over hyperarousal, over everything. And just knowing that the body knows what it does, so we just need to bring our trust in our own body's abilities, while showing that being awake at night is not really a threat. This is where all the barriers just go down and we start sleeping just like we did before. Take care.